You are going to want to stick around for whatever that talk is about. Goodness gracious, can a win just be a win at any point in time for women in history? That's all I want to know. Can a win just be a win and be left alone? But obviously, that does not happen. And you know how these things can go. When you have enough money, you have enough power, and you have enough pull, you're always out there reaching and pulling and stretching, trying to get things to go in your favor. And from what I just seen on an update regarding that, it just may do exactly that, right? But we will get to that in a moment. Let's go ahead and talk about Friday. A little bit of halfway recap for a moment on Thursday afternoon. Also, we're talking right now, witness 2 has finally made it to the stand. Prosecution is doing direct examination of. If you can't hear me too clearly, I will connect that microphone in just a moment. Let me know, tap in, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know by someone tapping the screen. Let me know that you're able to hear me. Click yes if you're able to hear. Also, feel free to comment at any point on any of the points. Some of you are ahead on most of this already, and if you already have some insight, then definitely do so. Thank you for that tap to let me know you can hear. All right, so Jane, witness 2 is on the stand. Single mother, she is testifying that she is a vic of Meg's, African with Sean P. Diddy Combs. And that is what her testimony is about for the duration of the direct examination coming from prosecution Comey, right? So yesterday was more of an introduction as to how she came to know Puff, how she, got into the life of Sean P. Diddy Combs. And there were additional text and everything that are being discussed. But, keep in mind, those inside the courtroom that are reporting back to us, they are letting us know that the text from Jane to Diddy are not shown. But shockingly, I'm going to go into detail as much as I can on here about a recording that was played in court today. And the details of that recording are, it's a lot to process. Again, if you have something that you're not in therapy. I happen to be a person that's in therapy, and I've experienced a lot of the things that are talked about in the trial. But because I sit with my therapist on a weekly basis, I have the tools to take care of myself to go through these topics. If you're not utilizing the proper tools to listen to any type of things that are discussed when it comes to the Sean P. Diddy Combs trial, the witnesses, etc., please exit the room to the left, because you don't need to be in here without doing your due diligence to take care of your mind while discussing the Diddy trial, okay? That way you don't go, spazzing out or having some kind of emotional intelligence breakdown when discussing the trial, because you just may not be going to therapy and doing your due diligence, right? So my sympathy and empathy with you always on that. You definitely have to get the work in order to even sit here as I do from what happened to me at age 18 to be able to sit here today and do what I do at age 51, okay? Takes a lot of therapy. I've been in therapy with everything that I've been through, including, loss and just, the DV, essay, everything that I've been through. I've been in therapy since 2007. Okay. All right. So if you haven't done that kind of work, definitely don't jump in here, all broken down and all out of whack. Okay. It kind of makes it uncomfortable for others who do the work. Okay. All right. There's separate rooms for everybody, right? There's Alcoholic Anonymous, and then there's the failing to go to Alcoholic Anonymous crowd, right? All right. So Diddy request did come in, and I found that interesting to insert for today to the sketch artist. So that's why I have this image for today. Now, Diddy is requesting to the sketch artist this: can you paint me in a better light? Why is it that I keep seeing the sketches of, just paraphrasing what kind of conversation happened, but, can I get a better, kind of painting going on, right? So the sketch artist has been doing what I call a paint with the twist too much with the lip and the nose features. And if I was able to notice that, I am pretty sure that anyone on the support base of Sean P. Diddy Combs was able to see that as well. The request has to come directly from the person on the, this is his trial. So that request was put in. Now, I want you guys to know this is a common request that does happen in high profile cases. So that's not an odd thing for him to say. If you don't stop putting, even though in our culture, we are proud of the Negro nose, okay? But, stop doing all that extra, because we did catch on to it, dear Jane Rosenberg, sketch artist, and, you need to pull back a little bit on the juicy lips and all that other stuff, right? If you really wanted me to keep it 1,000, one of the sketches that she did in week 1, I was able to read the word BOO. Okay, so stop playing with me in them racism sketching, painting with a twist too much streets, okay? Because I catch it all. And I'm sure if I was able to catch it, that is why Sean P. Diddy Combs was able to catch it as well. So he put in a request, can you paint me in a better light? Do better, be better, okay? That is a very common request that happens in these type of trials because the cameras are not in the courtroom and you're out there putting out images that will last for the rest of the world's time, okay? So I understood that, and I don't think I have anything against that. Anyone else in the comments have any thoughts that you want to share about that? That's pretty common to say, come on. You get this wonderful, handsome, disgusting photo of Harvey Weinstein shown everywhere, and then you get, that picture that they try to just really destroy the looks of Sean P. Diddy Combs. So, I'm throwing up at the Weinstein photo every time I have to see it. So, let's do better, be better, people. Okay. So can we just also stop and acknowledge for just a moment, because I don't think a lot of you understand that I am a Kim Porter fan, and I absolutely adore the career, the legacy of Kim Porter, right? So it's really hard to be attached to this thing, the Diddy trial, and then Kim Porter, but we always, may she forever rest in peace. I'm telling you, I had a moment where I was in tears earlier because the baby gets out, and this just happens, but the baby gets out the car earlier, and, the crowd is just ridiculous with how many people were just standing all over the vehicle trying to get pictures of this paparazzi moment. And he just gets out and his head is held high. He just reminds me of his mother so much, and definitely has his father's swag. But, King Combs, Kim's baby, just shout out to you just being able to do all that it is that comes with being the child of Kim Porter and having to go through all this, right? So forever protect the legacy of Kim Porter. May she rest in peace, right? So the way that he walked into court today, that really stood out to me. He definitely had an emotional moment on that. So in his support team today, Sean P. Diddy Combs' support team that showed up to the courtroom today, you have Mom showed up. Again, we just talked about Christian King came in and walked his good King Combs swag into the courtroom. And then you have Justin that showed up today. Sister Keisha is there also. That's being reported back that Keisha's there. Diddy's PR rep is there today. Dana Tran, the mother of baby Love, is in the courtroom today. Also, the BF from childhood, who's been there from day one inside the courtroom. He doesn't wear the gear. Outside the courtroom, you always see him in the free puff gear, getting in and out the vehicles, right? And also Cassie's attorney. Yeah, Cassie's attorney, Doug, was there also today. I guess something that he needs to hear from this testimony. Not sure. Maybe that helps him in the civil cases that Cassie has going. Not really sure where that's going with that, because this is pretty much done with Cassie's testimony. But yeah, sure. Okay. So thank you. Love you, babe. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. Thank you for the modding and the support. It's a lot. I'm here. All right. So I tuned in today, not really all over the place. I was on ABC News doing their daily. I don't even think I saw them do this in the Harvey Weinstein trial, but maybe they did. I'm not all over ABC every day, but ABC is definitely doing a daily update in the middle of the afternoon and the evening on Sean P. Diddy Combs. They have a whole segment dedicated to the downfall of Sean P. Diddy Combs, and they seem to be really thrilled with the ratings that they're getting from that. So they are definitely doing that every day. So I tuned into some updates that they had. Also, of course, I tuned in to Elizabeth Milner. I love her updates. She's excellent with the way that she's able to put her notes together, and I'm able to really I can take my part that I want to take from it, paraphrase when necessary. So those are the two updates that I have my notes from today. Just to let you guys know, and Elizabeth, ABC both have reps. Elizabeth is in the courtroom as a rep for Law and Crime, Jesse Weber, and ABC has their rep inside of the main courtroom as well. All right, does that help everybody? For where did you get that from? People that tend to show up. All right, so let's move right on along so we can continue on recording for the podcast also. Did Jane testify to any coercion today? Okay, so with this witness, Jane is being highly protected they don't want to, they're being very careful about what can be put out, and only so much can be shared with us about what's happening in the courtroom. But for what has been able to be publicly shared, did Jane testify to any coercion today? And Elizabeth said for her, she was asked that by Jesse, And she says it's a hard thing to answer. It's more in depth of a testimony today than yesterday. And in her opinion, it was easier for the press to connect the dots with Cassie's testimony. It's been hard for the press to really tell at this point with Jane's testimony, witness two, whether or not this is coercion or not. And there has been a great deal of confusion coming from most of the press reporting back regarding Jane. And you will see and go through that probably in just a few moments also. So the report comes back that Jane broke down into a lot of tears at points, yet she continued to push through. The prosecution Comey checked on her often, like, are you okay? Do you need to pause? But no, she continued to press through her testimony today. She was emotional about how long these hotel FOs lasted with Puffy in her testimony, talking about the FO nights. She testified that she would be tired, that she would request, quote, give a look to her partner or give a look to Puff. Partner at the time could be either Paul or Don or whoever she's talking about, the Atlantic escort, whoever she's talking about in that moment, right? And she would give a look to her partner in those nights, or give a look to Puff and, say, I'm really exhausted kind of thing. Times were exhausted from the hotel night, debauchery night, FO nights, whatever you want to call them. And they're referenced in different ways, right? And Jane testifies, witness two, that I did it to please him. When she says him, she's talking about Sean P. Diddy Combs. I did it to turn Puff on. I gave him massages. I would often cook for him after. And she does have points in her testimony about admiring him, being in love with him. And you will see that coming up in a moment, right? She testified on the stand today that she would throw up sometimes after these debauchery type nights. She also said that she would miss Sean P. Diddy Combs, that she would desire Sean P. Diddy Combs. Prosecution Comey was questioning Jane about an escort. And one of the escorts that Jane was talking about, prosecution Comey asked, would you text him? Would you be the one to text the escort? And Jane said, yes, I would be the one to text him. And then she also testified about texting, Combs, I love you. I want to see, let's see how I should say this. She texted him in a way to say, I want to have into me, you see, right? And then she would text him that she wanted to have into, you guys understand that I'm substituting that word for another word that we don't need to say on here, right? And then she would text that she wanted to have into me, you see, with others also in that into me, you see session, right? And she said that the reason why that she would text this type of thing is because it was Puff's fantasy, according to Jane, witness two. So Comey further direct exams to clarify that Jane desired to text with Puff, and Jane says, yes, I did desire to do so. So she's kind of really, that's not really a win for prosecution on that part of the testimony, in my opinion, because that's more of a win for the defense, who can brilliantly cross that in when they come to that point, right? So she says that yes, she wanted to. She enjoyed texting with him. Further into the testimony, Jane says is talking about one of the escorts, right? And she was saying that this particular performer that night was looking sweaty. He didn't look nice. He was kind of smelly. I don't know where they hired him from the back of the gutter, because you would think that anyone being paid high profile money in that, when Jane was hiring him, you would think that he would show up with the kind of money that Jane says that she was offering. You would think that the performer would show up and have exfoliated his skin and taken a whole bath. But apparently he did not, and his smelliness stayed on the mind of Jane as she talked about he came in, and I guess wanting to have this session that she had requested and paid for and arranged for him to show up, to be with her and Puff. But then the guy came in smelly and stanky and not looking nice and sweaty, and she was uncomfortable with the whole situation. And you're going to see in a moment her trying to not get this smelly and nastiness on her also, right? So Comey would ask, okay, well, what did you do in a situation like that? And Jane testified, I tried to make it work. I tried to seduce the smelly, sweaty dude with my body. She didn't say that, but that's literally the person she's talking about. But she said he kept sweating so much and he kept being smelly. And then she said she would look at her partner. Maybe sometimes it would be Dawn, sometimes it would be Puff, and say, like, I'm not feeling this. I'm all in her lingerie and heels, she testified. And she just didn't want to get her lingerie and heels, smelling like Badussi or whatever it is that dude showed up smelling like. But he does not seem like he's going to be getting any more clientele after Jane's testimony. I don't know who that guy is. Maybe he's well known like the Punisher. Who knows? But it wasn't the Punisher. She's not talking about the Punisher at this point. They then point to, whether or not, some of the experts are hearing this part of the testimony, begin to point to count 5 of the charges, or is it count 4? Engaging in prostitution. So, chat, how do you feel? Do you feel like at this point that Jane's testimony, when we get to this part and just sharing this part of her testimony, is this now showing prosty? Like, is she just like really just proudly saying that she's a performer and that she does this for a living? And can you now see this? And what do you think that her testifying that this is who she is and this is what she does, what do you think that does for the prosecution? Also, my thoughts are, my question to you, what do you guys think that does for the defense? I want to know what you all think on that, right? And moving on, Puffs, oh, let me check the chat. I'm sorry about that. Thank you guys for coming by. I appreciate you guys so much, especially those of you that return back each time. I appreciate those that repeat and those that are new. Thank you. Giving thanks always. Tap the screen if you will. Daily Heart Meets as well is very helpful. If you tap the screen up to 1K, it really helps move it right along. All right, so moving on to parts of the demeanor at the defense table today. So Puff's demeanor is reported back as just, no nodding along today, but he is taking notes and he's looking at his family. He turns around and, just reports back from Elizabeth. He looks at everyone. He looks at his family. He looks at his notes. He sends notes back and forth to the defense team. He's waving to his mother. You see here, oh, I'm sorry. I had another photo where he's doing like a heart, heart hands kind of thing, right? And he's no longer looking towards the jury intensely, as we, knew that was a big deal that was talked about yesterday. He's not nodding towards the jury or anything like that. A little bit less, allegedly intimidating, right? So to speak, maybe with his behavior today, kind of had it more in check. And you got to realize that this is a man that admitted in the opening statements from the defense team that he is a recovering addy, right? So he's a recovering addy. And if you've done, like I have an A in the class. I took a class with Dr. Green, drug and alcohol class, right? And in the drug and alcohol class, she talked often about how, you can often see family members when they go through what trying to come off of, they can't always cold turkey come off of. And an overnight instant pickup in September 2024, putting him in this institution, he definitely had to overnight come off of whatever it is that he was on. So he understands that. So this is kind of normal for those of us who have studied this. This is normal for his behavior to be kind of jumpy and, moving and, not sitting still and kind of all over the place, tweaky in a sense, right? That's kind of normal. So sadly, that ended up came across as being intimidating. And, him looking around, kind of searching for familiar faces and things like that. That's normal for someone coming off of a major addiction, right? All right, so there is a juror that does look directly at Jane and at Comey as she's doing her direct examination. So the prosecution has their person kind of staring at them, paying attention to them, nodding along with them, taking a lot of notes. But just so you know, the defense has a person that's doing the same for them, looking at everything that defense is doing. A jury member that's reported back to nodding all the time and kind of in total agreement every time defense cross. Why does that matter? You guys already know. Beyond reasonable doubt, every juror has to agree. One juror that does not agree, defense cross. Why does that matter? You guys already know. Beyond reasonable doubt, every juror has to agree. One juror that does not agree could be a win for the defense for sure. All right. And it could be a loss for the prosecution, right? All right. So recording was played today, right, with Combs and Jane and a guy named Don. Now, this is really like a... let me not judge the recording. This is really like a... it's a sensitive recording. It's something that happens in this particular scene that ends up playing out in court. It's something that happens in a lot of lifestyles. People are into that whole... bring me, you, and a friend too, and all kind of lifestyle, right? So there are people that are into this lifestyle, and that's what you're going to see kind of play out with this recording that was played. And this, as reported back that this recording, you can hear Sean P. Diddy Combs allegedly in this recording, as well as Jane and a guy named Don, right? So Diddy is reported to have recorded this on an iPhone, this recording that was played, and the conversation Jane wanted her escort to wear protection. This is what's happening in this scene. And I guess at whatever the prosecution is putting together, this is important for what they wanted to present. This is why this recording and this part of the testimony is being allowed in, right? So Jane wanted the escort to wear protection. And Diddy said, according to Jane's testimony, as they're playing this recording, you could hear allegedly Sean P. Diddy Combs say, "What are you doing? What do you want?" And Jane is then heard saying, "I want to find the protection. It's sitting over there. The protection packages are in the chair." And Diddy is going to her, allegedly, she says, well, it's played in the recording, so this is what they say is the voice of Sean P. Diddy Combs, is heard saying, "Nah, you're just going to take that D and explicit yourself right now to get yourself going." And that's what's heard in the recording. I told y'all it was uncomfortable. So then Jane says, she testifies, "I understand that my request was going to be denied." And then Comey kind of, cuts in and says, "Well, why would you need permission as to what to do with your own body, right?" So Jane says, "I don't know. I'm just trying to process everything." Defense hit that objection quick, as to be expected. So the defense went with an objection and the sidebar came right behind it, because it's like, oh, stop playing in these streets, is what defense was probably feeling like, right? So the defense goes objection and a sidebar came from that. So what do you guys think about that recording? That's a private recording. Most of y'all, no, let me stop. Some of you have participated in that kind of a lifestyle where three or more of you are gathered together in the name of the Lord in your bedroom, right? So imagine that 3 or 4 of you gathered together in prayer. Imagine if that was played out publicly. What do you think would happen? Think of some of the things that you all probably pray about in those moments. And now all of the public has heard it. What do you think about that? And what do you think about how that impacts Sean P. Diddy Combs, right? As far as now his business is out in the streets. And you're going to really see a lot of part of that, really kind of highlights something else, and that's kind of been rumored and going on in the rumors and talks that you see on the kind of less legit podcast, right? So Comey says, after coming back from the sidebar from that objection from the defense, Comey then goes, "Well, why did you insist that Don, this party partner person in the third party person, why did you insist that Don wear a protection? Like, what did you know about Don that he needed to wear protection, Jane?" Right? So Jane says, "I didn't want to disappoint my lover," talking about Puff, "and he wouldn't be in a good mood," she's referring to Puff, "or satisfied with this night if I kept asking to wear protection." That's kind of where her testimony went. Now, Jane's testimony and others really seem to be showing this thing and this pattern that, Diddy allegedly prefers for the escorts to not wear protection. So, for those of you out there in that get it on and praying with the Lord with 3 and 4 people streets, are you guys wearing protection? I'm all in your business. I just ask it straight, no chaser. Are y'all wearing protection? And if you're not, please explain why. Okay. All right. So Jane's testifying that Puff didn't want the protection. That's how her testimony says. She's testifying that Puff Diddy did not want protection to be put on top of the male performers packages. They were so blessed and highly favored, endowed, that I guess he just didn't want it put on. Maybe they were going to be busting the packages and he didn't want to waste everything that he had purchased. Maybe it's sad. Let's just give the man an excuse, okay? But that's what she testified, that she says that Puff didn't want the protection and she would try to fight for the protection. The recording is played hearing her begging for, asking for, and him denying that request. So I guess that was important at some point to wherever the prosecution is headed with this, right? Now, Jane, shockingly, this witness is testifying today. Jane's last encounter with these encounters with Puff and whoever she would hire and bring in and fly in, the last time that she did one of these sessions, so to speak, is August of 2024. Now, I don't know if that date did anything for you guys, but that date was a shocker for me. Someone said free Diddy. You know what? Today, Justin, they were seen He loves his children. I don't. I hope that no one you ever tries to doubt that, right? But Kim's babies. Oh my God. Yeah. So Christian was seen today. I'm a Kim Porter fan, so for those who don't know, may she forever rest in peace. But yeah, Christian was seen today walking into court today with Justin, and the children were there today, and this testimony is pretty intense. So he had a really good support team. So I don't know who's in charge of making sure that certain days that he has the right people there for him as a person who's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But that was really good support that showed up for him. At the end of the day, everyone deserves somebody to support them, right? That's humanity deserves that. No, a lot of people do a lot of bad things, but people deserve support and an opportunity to get better, right? So Jane's last encounter, according to her testimony, was August of 2024. In one of these incidents, her last encounter with Don, the performer, Don, the escort, the one that she was trying to get to put some packages on top of him before she had to lay down and spread wide with him, that last encounter was 2024. And interestingly enough, for those who know, that's a month before Puff was arrested, because his arrest was in September of 2024, right? So if I have it all gathered together in my notes correctly, I hope I'm going back and forth from ABC's update to TMZ's update to Two Angry Men to Law and Crime, so I'm trying to kind of get the right notes together. But Paul is an escort that worked from 2021 to July 2024. Jane says about Paul that she thought that he was just simply a personal trainer of Diddy's, and for some reason, the women that are testifying that they were in love with Diddy and that they thought that they were in a relationship with him, they just can't keep their hands off of his personal trainers. One of the star witnesses married a personal trainer of Sean P. Diddy Combs and has 3 children by him now. So I don't know what it is about his girlfriends always putting their hands on personal trainers, but I'm just going to say this. Kim Porter would never. Okay, Kim Porter would never. I'm just saying. All right, so Jane thought that he was a personal trainer of Diddy's, this Paul person that she talks about and testifies these moments with. He also worked for something called Cowboys for Angels. I don't need to go deep into that because I feel like I'm trying to apply for a brothel if I go deeper. So I don't want to go deeper, okay? Whatever that is, Cowboys for Angels, that's a part of her testimony. Jane also said that she would see him, Paul, and be with Paul in Los Angeles as well as in New York. Now, Leo, the last time she was with someone, escort named Leo, was in 2022 on her birthday. And she also hired and made arrangements for Leo to come in with her and Puff in 2023. There is an unnamed escort that we talked about earlier. She doesn't give the name of the person that was stinky and smelly and sweaty in the session that she had with him. And Don was also mentioned as being a first escort that Jane booked. He's in that recording where she's asking Don to put on the protection and Diddy's saying no and just go do something to yourself to get yourself ready, and denied her the protection, right? For the protection to be put on Don. So Don is an escort that she first booked, okay? And she's saying that they would fly him from Atlanta, Georgia. So Don, you're in Atlanta, Georgia. Don... If they know you by Don, you might want to change your whole strategy because you were outed in the court today. Okay, they're talking about you. But Don is fine. They would fly him in from Atlanta, Georgia, according to Jane, witness 2, testifying yesterday and today. She arranged the travel. She says, "Here is where we're going to have a little conversation about Rico." Okay, you guys ready? Did this solidify or debunk Rico? You guys let me know. So Don was an escort that Jane is testifying that she would book, and they would fly him in. She would fly him in from Atlanta, Georgia. She would arrange the travel for hotel stay for this Don. However, she is reporting that Diddy would reimburse her for whatever she paid in regard to Don's travel arrangements. She claims that Diddy's travel agent, she testifies, Diddy's travel agent would also book the Atlanta escort Don's travel arrangements also. Look, parts of her testimony are really not a good look for the prosecution, but then there are parts of her testimony that are not a good look for the defense also, okay? So what do you guys think? Do you think that is solidifying the RICO that they have with hearing about the reimbursement of? Um, true, Travis. And how do we know that KK's not testifying under a Jane Doe? That's the only thing, right? All right. So parts of Jay's testimony, like I said, are not good for the prosecution. The dating, her dating puff, admitting that she was dating him, admitting that she was deeply in love with him. She also admits to writing the explicit messages, begging him to bring in workers, trying to encourage him with being there for his fantasies so that she could please him and make him happy with their love. Her testimony is proving she's also a willing participant. She proves this many, many times. And this is also really accounting for the fact that this lifestyle really helps her rent. Because if you heard, in the testimony yesterday, her rent is $10,000 a month, right? So that's about what, 8 times more than the average person's rent, right? So that's $10,000 in a month that she has to maintain her rent, and did we just say that she's a single mother also? So this is good God. The good mommy in me almost judged somebody. Let me not do that. May everybody find reform. May everybody find a job that is just a little bit more fitting of a single mother. Okay. That does not sound judgmental at all. That sounds like Coach D Shields doing what I do best, encouraging you to be your best self at whatever point that you can, and be able to have your children look back and say, I'm proud of what you did, mommy. Not the part where you were hiring escorts for Sean P. Diddy Combs and getting it off. But I'm proud of everything else you did, mommy. Just kind of looking for that kind of thing when it comes to single mom life. All right. So the defense, not to be a judgmental person. I hope no one finds that judgmental. If you out there getting it on and getting paid in them streets, I have nothing. But I do wish you well with that, right? And make sure that you fight to use your protection, all right? And then if you feel like you are there against your will, may God protect you and free you, and may the right persons, sorry about that, you guys, I had to plug up something. May the right persons be there for you to get you out of that situation, all right? Okay, all right. Back to where we were. All right. So I just don't want the wrong thing to happen to the wrong people. And I just hate that people have to get caught up in this lifestyle. It's just not right. At the end of the day, it's just not right. Single mom of another rapper who's paying money for child support. Who's a single mom of a rapper? Did I miss something? Are you a single mom of a rapper and he's not paying child support? Oh, are you talking about Diddy? Oh, well, I don't really refer to Diddy as a rapper. Like, entrepreneur, businessman, producer. I kind of go that route when it comes to Diddy. I really refer to him as a rapper. Okay, so the defense, let me say, judge was asking, can everyone, the judge is asking, can everyone stay later? Now, here's what happened. There's a moment when he's like, okay, we need a little bit more time. Are y'all able to stay later? That was yesterday. And they were asking that because today Jane has to make a flight. And Jane has to take a flight out for a huge event that she has, right? So they were just trying to wrap up, how they go. Let's wrap up this testimony. Let's get this cross done. It becomes really expensive when they have to bring, especially if this is under a subpoena and you're paying for the person's, possibly paying for the person to be hoteled up and, their flights back and their food, their per diem and all those other things that come with admin world, right? So paralegals are like, yeah, it's a lot more affordable if everybody can get to it. Because if not, I'm going to have to book an extra night and then you're going to have to turn around and see, how much more money. And if the person is greedy, you're, paying for extra money to feed the person. So, let's get this testimony over with kind of thing. But, Jane apparently has to make a flight out for an event. All right. So also it said defense is definitely going to cross really well, according to all the experts talking, attorneys and experts, legal experts and legal analysts, that this will be a really good cross when it comes to crossing Jane and challenging all that Jane was able to benefit from the relationship, like being able to pay $10,000 worth of rent every month, right? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I catch where you guys are. All right. And so what do you think about that? Is this lifestyle of, similar things that are said? The Punisher talks about how cash was always put on the bed if he did something extra, that kind of thing. So this is a very well paid lifestyle for a lot of the people testifying as well, as the people being mentioned. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know nothing about that. I'm doing my best to try to keep Jane's identity. It won't be coming from me. All right. So it would definitely, it's going to hint at RICO charges if the proof of the company funds are used. Okay, so if they're able to say, okay, well, these funds for this booking of escorts, according to the things that are pointed out in Jane's testimony, if this is really what happened, where did the money come from? Did it come from Combs Enterprise? Because again, this is a case that is the United States versus Sean P. Diddy Combs versus Bad Boy Enterprises, Bad Boy, this, Sean John, and Combs Enterprises. This is the United States versus everything that is a part of Sean P. Diddy Combs' business, right? So at any point from all that they mention on the people that they're coming for in this particular trial and charges and indictment, would it hint at RICO charges if they can prove that any of those entities, whether Sean Combs himself, whether the businesses, Bad Boy or Combs Enterprises or Sean John, at what point did any of it pay for this lifestyle? If so, closer into the RICO, right? Also, Jesse Weber was seen testifying. On his podcast and also testifying. Yeah, sure, Jesse, you're testifying. No, Jesse Weber was seen on his podcast and he was also seen on Piers Morgan yesterday, right? So he was kind of talking about how they are really solidifying transportation to engage in prostitution when you're picking up people and from Atlanta to New York and from Atlanta to LA and from LA into New York. Those kind of things are said in the testimony. So that transportation to engage in pros is definitely being shown. He's also being accused of transporting persons for the purpose of this kind of a lifestyle. So what do you guys think? Have they proven that at this point? Has the prosecution made it crystal clear that they do believe that company money was being used for this activity? Put your thoughts in the comments there. Also, did he, as far as, again, looking at everyone in the gallery that's brought up and asked about often, yeah, he's looking around the gallery. He can't help but see everyone in that type of a layout of the courtroom, if you're familiar with how that's been drawn. The layout of the courtroom, yeah, he can see everyone. He turns around, he can see the family, he can see the press, he can see the jurors. Some people inside of the courtroom. One of the court reporting persons coming back on her podcast says that she feels intimidated by the looks. She feels intimidated when he looks at the press. And not all of the press are feeling the same way, but that's something that one of them said. And there is a juror that is nodding and in agreement and taking notes and really supportive every time the defense is up doing a cross. So that one person is enough, as you guys know how these things go in these judicial streets. All right, did you guys miss anything? And if so, let me know. What do you want me to recap on? What do you want me to scroll back up? Something is happening in regard to Harvey Weinstein, in the whole Me Too thing being unraveled, so to speak, where the retrial is going on. Something about it was brought up, unraveling one of the persons bringing charges against, right? And it's looking at a possible mistrial of whether or not that sends him home because he had all those multiple cases that he's serving and doing time for. I can't speak to the fact of whether or not this new information is going to send the elite of the worst man in the world, Harvey Weinstein. Would he go home? But it's very possible, is the rumors being said and talked about. So did you guys have anything else that you wanted me to answer for? And if not, you guys are pretty quiet, not so chatty today. So if not, we could go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for the taps of the screen. 2.2 thousand people stopped in. Thank you for the new followers. I see you. And I appreciate everyone who did stop in. And we'll be able to recap this show right here. And guess what? Guess what? We did it today. 42 minutes. We were able to finish on time. All right, open up for the microphone for a moment to make sure that I did offer that to you. Anyone want to come up and share your thoughts? This is your opportunity to do so.